Welcome to this fourth part of our series on how to prepare for imminent war. Now, of course, you know I'm going to encourage you to make sure you've seen the first 3 episodes before you watch this. You can pause this, come back to it, but we want to make sure you have the foundation and some of the other things that I've mentioned before you get to this point. Today, we're going to talk about 3 more things you can specifically do that are practical, that are simple, that are doable in the event of imminent war. So stay with us. I'm going to give you a couple of things to do today. And of course, as I've mentioned before, depending on the situation and how imminent the war is or how much time you have, these kind of fall into different categories of importance depending on your scenario. But if war was imminent, I would be recommending very quickly you go out and do this week. I want you to buy a hand crank radio. Now, a lot of us have solar-powered radios. That's great. A little handheld solar-powered radio, wonderful. Or a solar charger, fantastic. What if you're stuck inside? What if you're stuck in a basement? What if you're stuck down where there is no light coming in and you need power? I want you to always have the ability to have communications getting to you. So get yourself a hand crank radio. Now, a lot of them nowadays are made with solar and hand crank. That's wonderful. Get that kind. Also, I would recommend the kind that also has a little flashlight on the end of the radio. That's kind of a standard nowadays when you find those. Get something like that. You're going to need it. And if you have a feeling that your family might be separated, get a couple of them so you have one for each of the places where you both might find yourself. That's something that's going to help you in a lot of ways. Those hand crank mechanisms can also charge other devices. So when batteries fail us, when solar panels fail us, there is an actual process of cranking up that and getting the energy that you need that's going to run some of those devices. But right now, specifically, I'm talking about a radio. Now, while we're talking about communications, I want you to think about this. If you have plenty of time, I would really recommend looking into getting certified as a ham radio operator. It's going to allow you to hear communications and send communications all around the world to different countries, to different corners of society that you wouldn't be able to reach any other way. And when cell phones give out and the batteries or the cell tower is gone, you're going to need a way to reach someone somewhere else. So if you have time, yes, get a ham radio operator's license and get even the basic equipment. It's not that expensive to get that basic equipment. If you can't do that, at least get yourself a world band radio, the kind that's going to get you broadcasts from farther away than just your regular little AM, FM radio or whatever you might be getting on your phone. These sound very primitive, especially for those of you who are younger where you didn't grow up having your own FM or AM radio. That just sounds so antique. But a war is going to send us back a few steps, and those are reliable means of getting and receiving and sending communications, and you're going to need that in the event of war. All right, you've heard me well on that, I hope. The next thing I want you to do is this, and this is important. This is in the event that war is very imminent. I want you to quickly make sure you are able to get physical copies of maps of your area, wherever you find yourself. And I especially feel sympathetic toward those of you who travel a lot, because you would need to have maps of whatever place you're traveling to in the event that war was right imminent. You need to make sure you have physical copies, not on your phone, not somewhere else that you're going to have to get to. I want you to get physical copies. And then I want you with your family to carefully look at that and map out where each of I'm going to call them squeeze points, where each of the squeeze points are throughout your city. If you go to church at a certain place every week on Sundays, map that route out and make sure you note every squeeze point. Every place that could be cut off potentially. If you go to work every single day at the same place in town, map multiple ways home and take into account one mapped way is going to be how do you get from point A to point B if you're in a vehicle, which I hope you are, but if there is no gas, or if your car does not work, or if the interstate is shut down, you're left with no other option than to do it on foot. And so that's going to be a completely different route. I mean, not even close to the same route. So map out for each of you where you work, where you spend your time, where you might find yourself. If you go to the gym every Tuesday evening, map from the gym to home with a couple of routes, with all of the squeeze points, and with the version of route you would take by car or the version you would take if you were on foot. These are imperative, and you're going to notice that these come in absolutely essential in the event of war. I'll bet you haven't even considered how to find your way around, or even perhaps north, south, east, and west from where you find yourself at any given time. Mapping and learning how to navigate is one of the most important skills you need to have. But even if you haven't taken a class in it, having a map to get started with, and just start with your crayons, your highlighters, and make those for each of you in the family. It's going to be imperative, and have those maps with you as you go. The last thing I want you to think about is this. Selco, when he has been interviewed about advice he would give to anyone else who might find themselves in the situation that he did during the Balkan War, where they were stranded for a whole year without supplies and communications and an ability to travel without great danger. I mean, that was just out the window. Everyone stayed inside and just hoped to stay alive until it was over. But one of the things he mentions that he would strongly recommend that we do is, once you've mapped out routes and such, or I don't know that he covered that necessarily, but he said this. He said, if you can make a small cache, and I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about like a geocache. I'll make sure you see the link for that episode that we did on geocaching and how to do that. You can do it for fun, but in the event of war, it could save your life. If you could plant even 1 or 2 geocaches, or caches as they're called, different places along those routes between where you find yourself on a daily basis, perhaps at work, and then needing to get home. If you knew that the route you're going to take is going to go through a certain direction, and you were able to plant supplies, a couple of those different places, it could save your life. Even if it's just waterproof matches, or an emergency blanket, or a small map that's been printed out of how to go the rest of the way, or a compass, or a nutrition bar, or a bottle of water. Do you know how valuable that would be to you, and how grateful you would be to have done the prep work on the front end? And so that's my third assignment for you. I want to encourage you, go and make yourself your very first little cache. You can do it in a Tupperware container. You could do it in an Altoids tin, a little tiny Altoids tin. You could do it in an ammo box, a military ammo box, whatever it is that you have at your availability that's small, that could be hidden somewhere along that route. Go ahead and just see how much survival stuff you can fit in there that could actually save your life in the event that you were having to walk home and you needed supplies halfway home. All right, those are my 3 assignments for you for this episode. My little bonus point that I would just say is steady on, and don't give up no matter what. If you watch this 10 years, 80 years from the time that we have filmed it, and it is finally time for war to come to your area, and you're looking for solutions, I am encouraging you, don't give up. It's not time to get weary. It's not time to be in any way dissuaded to stop being strong. Stand steadfast and carry on. You can do it. All right. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, will you go find someone nearby who needs you? And will you be a blessing to them today? Thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, before you go, I would love to share just a quick word out of the Holy Bible with you. This is right there in the middle in the book of Psalms, and it's Psalm 91, verses 1 and 2. It says this, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. He is my God, and in Him I will trust." It's getting dark out there. Now go out and glow.